My name is Sophia Miller. I am 25 years old, and I live in a small apartment in the city. The papers were spread out on my parents' kitchen table like criminal evidence. They were my bank statements, printed in black and white, but the numbers on them screamed at me. My mother stood by the sink. She was scrubbing a plate that was already clean, refusing to look at me. Her shoulders were hunched, hiding her face. My sister, Clara, leaned against the granite counter. She wasn't hiding anything. She was smirking. She looked like she had just won a game I didn't even know we were playing. My father stood in the center of the room. He was stiff, his arms crossed over his chest. I looked at the balance on the paper. 0. That money was for Grandpa, I said. My voice was quiet, but my hands were shaking. It was $990,000. It was for his heart surgery. It was to save his life. My father didn't flinch. He looked me dead in the eye with a cold, flat stare. He should just die, he said. The room went silent. They didn't just steal my money. They tried to kill the only person who ever loved me. They thought I was weak. They were about to find out how wrong they were. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Sophia Miller. I am 25 years old. I have always been a ghost in my own home. It is a strange feeling to be invisible to the people who made you. I didn't have a bad childhood in the way people usually talk about bad childhoods. I wasn't beaten. I wasn't starved. I had clothes on my back and a roof over my head. From the outside, we looked like a perfect, normal American family. We had a nice house in the suburbs. We had 2 cars in the driveway. We had family photos on the wall. But if you looked closer at those photos, you would see the truth. In every picture, my parents are standing close to my sister, Clara. My mother usually has her hand on Clara's shoulder. My father is usually leaning toward Clara, smiling that proud smile he reserves only for her. And then there is me. I am always a few inches away. I am always standing a little to the side, like I accidentally walked into the frame at the last second. Clara was the golden child. She was loud, she was demanding, and she was perfect in their eyes. If Clara wanted a new dress, she got 3. If Clara got a C on her report card, the teacher was the problem. If Clara broke a vase, it was an accident. If I wanted a new dress, I was told to be grateful for what I had. If I got an A on my report card, nobody noticed. If I broke a vase, I was clumsy and careless. I learned very early that my feelings did not matter. I learned that my voice was just noise to them. I stopped crying when I was 6 years old because I realized that crying didn't bring comfort. It only brought annoyance. "Stop making a scene, Sophia," my mother would say. "You are being dramatic." So I became quiet. I became independent. I learned to cook my own dinner because my mother was too busy helping Clara with a project. I learned to fix my own clothes. I learned to hide my achievements because sharing them just made the silence hurt more. But I wasn't completely alone. I had Grandpa. My grandfather was my father's father, but they were nothing alike. My father was stiff and cold, obsessed with appearances and money. Grandpa was warm. He was rough around the edges, but he had a heart that actually beat for other people. He saw me. When I was 10, I had a lead role in the school play. It was a big deal for me. I practiced my lines for weeks in front of the bathroom mirror. I made my own costume out of old sheets. I reminded my parents about the date every single day for a week. "We know, Sophia," my father said, not looking up from his newspaper. "We'll be there." On the night of the play, I stood behind the curtain, peeking out at the audience. The gym was packed with parents holding cameras and flowers. I scanned the rows, looking for my mother's blonde hair or my father's gray suit. They weren't there. I felt that familiar coldness in my stomach. I told myself they were just late. I told myself there was traffic. Then the play started. I went out on stage and said my lines. I smiled. I sang. But every time I looked at the empty seats in the 3rd row, I felt like I was going to crack open. Then, halfway through the 2nd act, the double doors at the back of the gym swung open. It wasn't my parents. It was an old man in a flannel shirt and suspenders, holding a bouquet of grocery store daisies. It was Grandpa. He marched down the center aisle, ignoring the shushes from other parents. He found a seat right in the front row. He waved at me. He gave me a thumbs up. When the play ended, he stood up and clapped louder than anyone else. He whistled. He yelled, "That's my girl, that's my Sophia." Afterward, he took me for ice cream. I sat in the booth, still wearing my stage makeup, and I started to cry. I told him my parents promised they would come. Grandpa sighed. He looked old then and tired. He reached across the table and took my hand. His hands were rough, covered in calluses from years of working as a mechanic. "Sophia," he said, "listen to me." I looked up, wiping my eyes. "You have a good heart," he said. "You work hard, you are smart, do not let them take that away from you." "Why don't they love me?" I asked. It was the first time I had ever said it out loud. Grandpa's face got hard. "They don't know how to love anything that doesn't make them look good. That is their brokenness, not yours." He squeezed my hand. "Family isn't blood, Sophia," he told me. "It's behavior, remember that. Just because you share DNA with someone doesn't mean you owe them your soul. People show you who they are by what they do, not what they say." I didn't fully understand it then. I was just a kid. I still wanted my parents to love me. I spent the next 10 years trying to earn it. I worked hard in school. I got a scholarship to college so they wouldn't have to pay. I started working when I was 16. I saved every penny. I thought if I was successful, if I was rich, if I was perfect, they would finally look at me the way they looked at Clara. But it didn't work. When I graduated college with honors, they didn't come. They went to Clara's high school tennis match instead. When I got a high-paying job at a tech firm, my father just asked, "Does it pay more than Clara's boyfriend makes?" It was never enough. Grandpa was the only constant. When he got older, his health started to fade. He had heart problems. The doctors said his valves were wearing out. He needed surgeries, medications, and special care. My father complained about the cost. "He's old," my father would say at dinner. "It's a waste of money to keep patching him up." I hated him for saying that. I started saving specifically for Grandpa. I opened a separate high-yield savings account. I called it my Freedom Fund, but in my head it was the Grandpa Fund. I lived in a tiny apartment. I drove a cheap car. I didn't go on vacations. I worked 60 hours a week. Every month, I put thousands of dollars into that account. Over 5 years, it grew. It became a serious amount of money. I had almost $1 million, $990,000 to be exact. I didn't tell anyone about it, not my friends, not my parents, especially not Clara. I knew that if my family knew I had money, they would want it. Clara was always in debt. My parents lived beyond their means to keep up appearances. They leased luxury cars they couldn't afford. They went on trips they put on credit cards, so I kept my mouth shut. My plan was simple. I was going to pay for Grandpa's heart surgery. It was a specialized procedure, not fully covered by insurance, and it was expensive. But it would give him another 10 years. It would give him a chance to see me get married one day. It would give him a life. I was ready. I felt powerful. For the first time in my life, I had control. I had the means to protect the one person who protected me. I just didn't know that while I was busy working to save him, the people closest to me were working to destroy me. The nightmare started on a Tuesday. I received a call from Grandpa's neighbor. She was panicking. She found Grandpa on his kitchen floor. He had collapsed. I remember the drive to the hospital. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I couldn't breathe. I kept praying, "Please don't take him, not yet, I'm not ready." When I got to the ICU, he was hooked up to machines. The beeping of the monitors was the only sound in the room. He looked so small in that bed. His skin was gray. My parents and Clara arrived an hour later. They didn't look scared. They looked annoyed. "This is going to take all night," Clara complained, checking her reflection in the dark window of the hospital room. "I have a date tomorrow." My mother shushed her, but not because she was angry. She just cared about what the nurses might hear. The doctor came in and gave us the news. Grandpa needed the surgery immediately. It was risky, and it was going to be incredibly expensive because of the specialists required. "We can't afford that," my father said instantly. He didn't even ask the price. "He's 80 years old. It's not realistic." "I'll pay for it," I said. The room went silent. My father turned his head slowly to look at me. My mother stopped fidgeting with her purse. Clara looked up from her phone. "You," Clara laughed. "With what?" "Your receptionist money." I didn't look at her. I looked at the doctor. "I have the money. I have savings. Do whatever you need to do. I will handle the billing." The doctor nodded and left to prepare the paperwork. When the door closed, the atmosphere in the room changed. It wasn't sad anymore. It was hungry. "Sophia," my mother said, her voice dripping with a sweetness I hadn't heard in years. "What do you mean you have the money? That surgery costs hundreds of thousands of dollars." "I've been saving," I said shortly. "I have a good job. I invest." "Invest?" My father stepped closer. He wasn't looking at me like a daughter. He was looking at me like a bank vault he had lost the combination to. "How much do you have saved?" Enough, I said. It doesn't matter, I'm paying for Grandpa. But surely, my father pressed, you don't keep that kind of cash just sitting around. Which bank is it in? Is it liquid? Why does it matter? I asked. I was tired, I was emotional, I just wanted them to stop talking so I could hold Grandpa's hand. We're just concerned, my mother said. You're young. You don't understand how these hospitals work. They will rip you off. We should handle the finances for you, as a family. I can handle it, I said. Don't be selfish, Clara chimed in. Dad knows about money. You should let him help. I should have seen it then. I should have seen the greed in their eyes, but I was exhausted. I was terrified of losing Grandpa. I wasn't thinking like a victim, I was thinking like a granddaughter. That night, I stayed at the hospital. My parents and Clara went back to their house. They said they needed rest. The next few days were a blur of tests and consultations. I basically lived in the waiting room. I didn't shower. I barely ate, but my family became very attentive. My mother started bringing me food. She had never brought me food in my life. She would show up with a Tupperware container of pasta and sit with me. You look tired, honey, she would say. Why don't you go to our house and shower, sleep in your old bed for a few hours, we'll watch Grandpa. No, I'm fine, I said. Don't be silly, she insisted. You need to rest if you're going to make big decisions. Go home, Clara is there, she'll make you coffee. Eventually, I broke. I was smelling bad and I was so tired I was hallucinating. Okay, I said. Just for a few hours. I drove to my parents' house. When I walked in, Clara was in the kitchen. She was unusually nice. Hey, she said. Mom said you needed a shower. I put clean towels in the bathroom. Thanks, I mumbled. I went upstairs. I left my purse on the kitchen counter. My purse had my wallet. It had my phone. And most stupidly, it had my notebook where I wrote down my passwords because I was afraid of forgetting them in the stress of the hospital. I took a long shower. The hot water felt amazing. For 20 minutes, I let myself relax. I thought about Grandpa getting better. I thought about taking him fishing once he recovered. When I came downstairs, Clara was sitting exactly where I left her. But she looked, flushed, excited. Feel better? She asked. Yeah, I said. I grabbed my purse. It looked slightly moved, but I didn't think much of it. I'm going back to the hospital. Okay, she said. She was smiling, a real smile. It creeped me out. When I got back to the hospital, my father was there. He was pacing. We need to talk about the payment, he said. The hospital needs a deposit to book the surgery suite for Monday. I know, I said. I'm going to wire it tomorrow morning. Are you sure you have enough? He asked again. It's a lot of money, Sophia. Maybe you should transfer it to a joint account with me, just for safety, so the hospital doesn't take advantage of you. Dad, stop, I snapped. I told you, it's under control. The money is in my account. It's safe, right, he said. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't place. It wasn't pride, it was something darker. Safe. The next day, the warnings got louder. I went to the cafeteria to get coffee. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from my bank app. Login attempt detected from a new device. I frowned. I stared at the screen. I thought maybe it was me, maybe from when I checked my balance earlier on the hospital Wi-Fi. Then another notification. Password reset request. My stomach dropped. I tried to log into my app. It let me in. The balance was still there, $990,000. I breathed a sigh of relief. I changed my password immediately. I thought it was just a glitch, or maybe a hacker trying their luck. I didn't think it was the people sitting 10 feet away from me in the waiting room. I walked back to the ICU waiting area. My father was on his phone. He hung up quickly when he saw me. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, I said, sitting down. Just a weird notification from my bank. Oh, his voice was too high. What kind of notification? Someone tried to log in, I said, but I changed the password, it's fine. He nodded slowly. Good, you have to be careful. He exchanged a look with my mother, a quick, sharp look, like a signal. I should have run. I should have taken my money and moved it to a different bank right then. I should have realized that family doesn't ask about your bank balance while your grandfather is dying. But I wanted to trust them. I wanted to believe that in a crisis, we were on the same side. I was so stupid. The real blow came 2 days later. It was the day before the payment was due. I was sitting by Grandpa's bed. He was awake for a few minutes. Sophia, he whispered. His voice was like dry leaves. I'm here, Grandpa. Watch, you're back, he wheezed. I am, I soothed him. Don't worry. No, he gripped my hand weakly. Clara, Dad, watch them. I thought he was delirious. I thought it was the medication talking. Rest, Grandpa, I said. I'm handling everything. I walked out of the room to get some fresh air. I left my phone charging on the bedside table. I was gone for 10 minutes. When I came back, the phone was plugged in, but it was turned slightly. Face down, I picked it up. It was unlocked. I felt a cold shiver go down my spine. I knew I had locked it. I opened the recent apps. My email was open. My banking app was open. My photos were open. I spun around. The room was empty except for Grandpa sleeping in the bed. I ran out to the hallway. I saw Clara walking toward the elevators. She was holding a piece of paper. Clara, I yelled. She turned around. She didn't look guilty. She looked bored. What? Were you in the room? I just checked on Grandpa, she said, shrugging. He was asleep. So I left. Did you touch my phone? Why would I touch your cheap phone? She sneered. I have my own. She turned and got on the elevator. The doors closed. I stood there, shaking. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Something was wrong. The air felt heavy. I looked down at my phone. I opened the banking app again. The little wheel spun, and spun, and spun. System error, please try again later. I tried again. System error, I called the bank. I can't access my account, I told the operator. I need to check my balance. 1 moment please, the operator said. I waited. The hold music sounded like a funeral march. Ma'am, the operator came back. Her voice sounded strange, hesitant. I see a pending transfer initiated 30 minutes ago, a wire transfer. I didn't initiate a transfer, I said. My voice was rising. Cancel it. I can't, she said. It was authorized with the correct security questions and the 2-factor authentication code sent to your device. How much? I whispered. How much was transferred? There was a pause. Ma'am, the transfer was for the full available balance. $990,000. The phone slipped out of my hand and hit the hospital floor. The world tilted. The noise of the hospital faded away. They had done it. They had actually done it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I felt something inside me snap. It was the tether that had held me to my family for 25 years. It snapped clean in half. I picked up my phone. I didn't call the police yet. I didn't run to find them. I walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot. I saw my father's car pulling away. They were leaving. They had the money, and they were leaving Grandpa to die. I watched their car disappear into traffic. Okay, I said to the empty room. Okay. The sadness was gone. The fear was gone. Now there was only the cold, hard need for justice. I stood in the hospital hallway. The air smelled like antiseptic and floor wax. My phone felt heavy in my hand, like a brick. The bank operator was still talking, but I hung up. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to see the numbers to believe that my own flesh and blood had done this to me. I opened the app again. This time it loaded. The screen refreshed. The green bar that usually showed my savings was gone. It was replaced by a gray line. Available balance, $0. I clicked on transaction history. The list populated instantly. It wasn't just one big transfer. They had been smart enough to break it up, thinking maybe the bank wouldn't notice if it happened in chunks. Or maybe they just got greedy as they went. The list was a timeline of my betrayal. 10:15 a.m. Withdrawal $120,000, 10:18 a.m. Withdrawal $200,000, 10:22 a.m. Withdrawal $450,000, 10:30 a.m. Withdrawal $220,000 total, $990,000. Every single penny. I scrolled down. The transfers were sent to an account named C&D Family Trust. I knew that name. It was a dummy account my father had set up years ago for tax purposes. He used to brag about it at dinner. He said it was how rich people stayed rich. I felt sick, physically sick. I leaned against the cold wall and slid down until I was crouching on the floor. They had used my phone. When I was out of the room. When I was trusting them to watch a dying man. Clara must have watched me unlock it earlier. Or maybe she guessed the passcode. It was my birthday. My birthday, which they usually forgot, but suddenly remembered when it could make them rich. I thought about the timeline. When Clara went to the bathroom. When she was checking on Grandpa. She had taken my phone. She had used the app. She had approved the transfers using the text codes that popped up on my screen. Then she deleted the text messages so I wouldn't see them. It was calculated. It was cold. I texted my mother. My fingers were shaking so hard I could barely type. Where are you? The reply came 3 dots at a time, then a message. We went home. We were tired. Stop bothering us. I typed back. The money is gone. Did you take it? I waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then her reply came. It wasn't a denial, it wasn't a question, it was a command. We'll talk when you get here. Don't make a scene at the hospital. That was it. No, what money? No, oh my God, call the police. Just, we'll talk when you get here. Like I was a child who had broken a vase. Like I was the inconvenience. I stood up. My legs felt steady now. The nausea passed. I looked into the room at Grandpa. He was sleeping. The heart monitor beeped in a steady rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. That sound was the only thing keeping me grounded. That money was his life. Without it, the surgery wouldn't happen. Without the surgery, the beeping would stop. They didn't just steal from me. They stole his time. They stole his breath. I walked over to his bed. I kissed his forehead. His skin was paper-thin. I'll be right back, I whispered. I'm going to fix this. I grabbed my purse. I walked out of the hospital. I didn't run. I didn't look frantic. I walked with the kind of calm that comes right before a storm. My car is a 5-year-old sedan. It's reliable, it's quiet. I got in and locked the doors. The silence inside the car was deafening. I put the key in the ignition, but I didn't start the engine yet. I took a deep breath. I looked at my face in the rearview mirror. I looked different. My eyes looked harder. The soft, hopeful girl who just wanted her parents to love her. She stayed back in the hospital waiting room. The woman in the driver's seat was done begging. I pulled out of the parking lot and turned onto the highway. The drive to my parents' house was 45 minutes. 45 minutes is a long time. It is enough time to cry. It is enough time to panic. But I didn't cry. I planned. I put my phone on the dashboard mount and hit dial. Step 1. The bank, fraud department, I said the moment the voice command activated. When the agent answered, I didn't use the shaky, scared voice I had earlier. I used my work voice. The voice I used when I managed million-dollar projects at my job. My name is Sophia Miller, I said. I am reporting unauthorized wire transfers totaling $990,000. The transfers occurred between 10:15 and 10:30 a.m. today. Okay, ma'am, I need you to freeze the destination account immediately. I cut him off. The receiving bank is First National. The account name is C&D Family Trust. I am flagging this as felony theft and elder abuse fraud. If that money moves from that account, your bank will be liable for negligence. The word negligence made the agent sit up straighter. I could hear him typing furiously. I have frozen your account, Miss Miller. We are sending a flag to the receiving bank now, but since it was authorized from your device. I have the IP logs, I lied. Well, it was half a lie. I knew I could get them. I was at the hospital. The device location will show the hospital, but the receiving account belongs to my parents. The conflict of interest is obvious. Just freeze it. It's done, he said. Investigation case number 88,392. Step 2, the lawyer. I hung up and called Mr. Henderson. He was an attorney I had met through work. He specialized in estate law and elder abuse. Sophia, he answered, it's Saturday. They stole the surgery money, Robert. Silence on the line, then the sound of a chair scraping. He was sitting up. Who? My parents, my sister, $990,000. They transferred it while I was out of the room at the hospital. Jesus, he breathed. I'm driving to their house now, I said. I need you to prepare a document. I need guardianship papers for my grandfather. Emergency temporary guardianship. And I need a civil suit drafted for the theft. Sophia, don't go there alone, Robert warned. If they are desperate enough to steal $1 million, they are dangerous. They aren't dangerous, I said, watching the highway markers fly past. They're stupid. They think I'm still the little girl who cleans up their messes. They think I'm going to come over there and cry and ask them why they did it. And what are you going to do? I'm going to audit them, I said. I'm sending you the bank statements now. File the police report, Robert. Do it now. I want the case number by the time I pull into their driveway. On it. Step 3, the evidence. I kept driving. My mind was racing, connecting the dots. They were amateurs. They thought because they had the money in their account, it was theirs. They didn't understand how digital footprints worked. I knew my sister used the hospital Wi-Fi. I knew my father's trust account was linked to his social security number. I knew that because the money was designated for a medical procedure, taking it wasn't just theft. It was a specific class of felony in our state. And they had done it while the victim, Grandpa, was incapacitated. That added an aggravating factor to the charges. I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a cold, tight smile. They had walked right into a trap they built themselves. I saw the exit sign for my parents' neighborhood, Maplewood Estates. The houses here were big, the lawns were perfectly green. It was the kind of place where people smiled at their neighbors and hid their rot behind expensive curtains. I turned onto their street. I saw my father's BMW in the driveway. I saw my sister's convertible. They were all there, probably celebrating, probably planning what to buy. I pulled my car up to the curb. I didn't park in the driveway. I didn't want to block them in. I wanted them to feel free right up until the moment the cage slammed shut. I checked my phone one last time. A text from Robert, police report filed. Case number CR-2024-991. Freezing order sent to First National. Perfect. I checked my makeup in the mirror. I looked calm. I looked like I was just coming over for Sunday dinner. I grabbed the folder of bank statements I had printed at the hospital business center before I left. I stepped out of the car. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. It was a beautiful day to destroy my family. I walked up the front steps and didn't bother to knock. I still had a key. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. They were in the kitchen. I could hear the champagne cork pop. To the future, my father's voice boomed. To us, Clara squealed. I walked down the hallway. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor. Click, click, click. The laughter died as soon as I appeared in the doorway. My mother was holding a crystal flute of champagne. Clara was sitting on the counter. My father was holding the bottle. They froze. Sophia, my mother said, putting the glass down. She smoothed her dress. You're here, good. We need to discuss how we're going to manage this money for the family. I didn't say hello. I didn't shout. I walked over to the table and slammed the folder of bank statements down. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Sit down, I said. My voice was quiet, but it filled the room. They looked at each other. Then, slowly, they sat. I sat at the head of the table. It was my father's usual spot, but today he didn't dare ask me to move. My mother was the first to speak. She put on her reasonable face. It was the face she used when she wanted to return a dress she had already worn. Sophia, she began, clasping her hands on the table. You have to understand. We didn't steal the money. We moved it. For safekeeping. Safekeeping, I repeated flatly. In a trust account under Dad's name. You are under a lot of stress, my father added. He poured himself a glass of champagne, but his hand was shaking. You aren't thinking clearly. $1 million is too much responsibility for a young woman. We were going to invest it for you. We were going to manage it. And the surgery? I asked. What about Grandpa? Clara laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. Oh, come on, Sophia, he's 80. Spending $1 million on an 80-year-old man, it's wasteful, it's stupid. We did you a favor. When he passes, you'll thank us. We can all use that money for things that actually matter, like the house. Or my business. Your business? I looked at her. You mean your failed clothing line? It's not failed, she snapped. It just needs capital and now we have it. I looked at them. They really believed it. They believed they were entitled to my life, my work, and my money. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a piggy bank they could break open whenever they wanted. I didn't come here to argue, I said calmly. I came here to tell you what has already happened. My father narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? I opened the folder. I slid a single piece of paper across the table. It wasn't the bank statement. It was the printout from the bank's fraud department. I called the bank, I said. I reported the transfer as unauthorized. I flagged it as identity theft and elder abuse. My father's face went pale. You did what? I also called the police, I continued. I filed a report, case number CR-2024-991. You called the police on your own parents, my mother shrieked. She stood up, knocking her chair over. Are you insane? We are your family. No, I said. Family doesn't steal life-saving money from a dying grandfather. Family doesn't gaslight you in a hospital waiting room. Criminals do that. Undo it, my father demanded. He slammed his fist on the table. Call them back right now. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them you gave us permission. I can't, I said. The investigation has already started. The bank has already traced the IP address to the hospital Wi-Fi. They know it was done from my phone while I was logged out. They know the money went to the C&D Family Trust. It's a straight line, Dad. And it points right at you. You ungrateful little brat, Clara yelled. She jumped off the counter. After everything we did for you, we gave you a home, we fed you. And then you robbed me, I said. My father took a deep breath. He tried to regain control. He adjusted his tie. Sophia, listen to me. This is a misunderstanding. If the police come, it will ruin my reputation. It will ruin this family. You don't want that. We can give the money back. We'll transfer it back right now. Just call the police and drop the report. He pulled out his phone. He opened his banking app. I watched him. I waited for the realization to hit. He tapped the screen. He frowned. He tapped it again. What is this? He muttered. Access denied. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with genuine fear. Sophia, why is my account locked? I told you, I said softly. I filed a full audit. The bank froze the destination account. You can't move the money, you can't spend it, and you can't give it back. You froze my money, he whispered. That account has my retirement in it. It has the house payments. It contains stolen funds, I said. Until the investigation is over, nobody touches a dime. Not me, not you. The silence in the kitchen was heavy. The birds outside had stopped singing. The only sound was my mother's ragged breathing. You're destroying us, my mother whispered. Over money? No, I said. Over behavior. My father sank into his chair. He looked small. For my whole life, he had been this giant, terrifying figure who controlled everything. Now he was just a greedy old man staring at a frozen phone screen. So, what now? Clara asked. Her smirk was gone. She looked like a cornered animal. Grandpa dies because you froze the money and we go to jail. Is that the plan? You kill him to punish us. I leaned forward. This was the moment I had been waiting for. Grandpa isn't going to die, I said. You said the money is frozen, Clara said. The stolen money is frozen, I corrected her. But I didn't rely on just one account. I pulled another paper from my folder. It was a confirmation email from the hospital billing department. I have a secondary emergency fund, I lied. It wasn't exactly a lie. I had used my $401,000 and an emergency line of credit I opened years ago. It was debt, but it was worth it. I paid the deposit this morning. Before I came here, I watched the confusion wash over their faces. The surgery is scheduled for Monday morning, I said. It's paid for. I handled everything without you. My mother looked like she had been slapped. But, if you paid for it, then why did you call the police? Because you still stole from me, I said. The fact that I solved the problem doesn't change the crime. I stood up and walked around the table. I stood behind my father's chair. And one more thing, I said. I dropped a heavy packet of legal documents on the table. The header read, Petition for Emergency Guardianship. I just faxed this to the court, I said. Given the evidence of financial abuse and the police report, my lawyer says it will be granted by Monday afternoon. I am taking legal guardianship of Grandpa. You can't do that, my father sputtered. He is my father. And you tried to let him die for a payout, I said, cold as ice. You are unfit. The court will see that. The doctors see that. From now on, I make the medical decisions. I control his care. I decide who visits him. I looked at Clara, then at my mother. And I decide that none of you are allowed near him again. You can't ban us from the hospital, Clara yelled. Watch me, I said. I'll have security remove you. I'll show them the police report. Do you think they want thieves wandering around the ICU? For the first time in my life, I saw true defeat in their eyes. They weren't just caught. They were beaten. My father put his head in his hands. Sophia, please, we can work this out. Don't let them arrest me. I can't go to jail. I'm an old man. You said Grandpa was an old man, I reminded him. You said he should just die, remember? He flinched. I remember, I said. I will always remember. The doorbell rang. It wasn't a friendly ring. It was a sharp, authoritative buzz. My parents jumped. My mother looked at the door with terror. Who is that? She whispered. I think that's the end of the party, I said. I went to the door and opened it. Mr. Henderson, my attorney, stood there. Behind him were two uniformed officers. Miss Miller, one of the officers asked. Yes, I said. Come in. My father stood up, his face gray. Officers, there has been a mistake. My daughter is just upset. Mr. Henderson stepped forward. He was a tall man with a calm, dangerous presence. He didn't look at my father. He looked at me. Sophia, we have the temporary restraining orders signed, he said, handing me a folder. And the officers are here to take statements regarding the felony theft. Felony, my mother squeaked. It's a family dispute. Ma'am, the officer said, stepping into the kitchen. Theft over $100,000 is a first-degree felony. Wire fraud is a federal offense. And since the victim is an elderly man in critical care, we are looking at elder abuse enhancements. My mother collapsed into her chair. She started to cry, not the fake tears she used to get her way, Real, ugly, terrified tears. Clara did it, she wailed suddenly. She pointed a shaking finger at my sister. It was Clara's idea. She took the phone. I just watched. Mom, Clara screamed. You liar, you told me the passcode. You said we deserved it. Both of you stop, my father shouted. All three of you are listed on the trust account, Mr. Henderson said calmly. You are all accessories. You will all be investigated. The officers began to separate them. They took my father into the living room. They took Clara to the patio. They kept my mother in the kitchen. I stood in the hallway and watched. It was chaotic. It was loud. It was ugly. But it was necessary. Mr. Henderson came over to me. You don't need to stay for this, Sophia. We have everything we need. The bank logs are solid. The confession they just screamed at each other helps too. I know, I said. Go back to the hospital, he said gently. Go be with your grandfather. We'll handle the rot here. I looked at my parents one last time. My father was arguing with the officer, his face red. My mother was sobbing into a napkin. Clara was smoking a cigarette on the patio, looking furious. They didn't look at me. They were too busy trying to save themselves. I turned my back on them. I walked out the front door. The sun was setting now. The sky was a bruised purple. I got into my car. I didn't look back at the house. I knew I would never step foot inside it again. The surgery took 8 hours. I sat in the waiting room the entire time. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just watched the clock on the wall. Every time the double doors opened, my heart stopped. I was terrified a doctor would come out with a sad face. But at 6 p.m., the surgeon came out. He pulled his mask down. He was smiling. He made it, the surgeon said. It went perfectly. His heart is strong. I let out a breath I had been holding for 3 days. I buried my face in my hands and finally, I cried. I cried for the stress. I cried for the betrayal. But mostly, I cried because I hadn't failed him. 2 days later, Grandpa woke up. I was sitting by his bed reading a book. He stirred. His eyelids fluttered. Sophie, he croaked. I jumped up. I'm here, Grandpa. I'm right here. He looked around the room. He blinked. Did they come? He meant my parents. No, I said firmly. They aren't coming. He looked at me. His eyes were groggy, but they were sharp. He saw the sadness in my face, but he also saw the strength. You stopped them, he whispered. It wasn't a question. I stopped them, I said. I took care of it. The surgery is paid for. You're safe, and I'm your guardian now. He closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. He squeezed my hand. His grip was weak, but it was there. You protected me, he whispered. You protected me first, I said. When I was little, now it's my turn, he smiled. Good girl, brave girl. In that moment, the loss of the money didn't matter. The loss of my parents didn't matter. I looked at him, this old man who loved me simply because I was me, and I felt rich. It has been 6 months. My grandfather is living with me now. I bought a smaller house with a guest suite on the ground floor. It has a garden where he likes to sit and watch the birds. He is recovering well. He walks with a cane, but he walks. My parents and sister are currently awaiting trial. The legal process is slow. They plead not guilty, of course. They are fighting the charges. They are spending every dime they have on lawyers. The $990,000 was eventually returned to me by the bank, but it took months of investigation. By the time I got it back, my parents were bankrupt. Their assets were frozen, their reputation in town was destroyed, and they had turned on each other completely. My father blames Clara. Clara blames my mother. My mother blames everyone but herself. They try to call me sometimes. Blocked numbers, letters from jail, emails from new accounts. Sophia, please, we're family. Sophia, we can fix this. Sophia, don't be cruel. I don't open them. I don't read them. I delete them. I burn the letters. I used to think that ignoring them would be hard. I used to think I would feel guilty. I thought I would miss having a mother and a father. But I don't. Because I realized that I never really had them. I had people who looked like parents, but they were just actors playing a role. And when the curtain fell, there was nothing there but greed. I sit on the back porch with Grandpa. We are drinking lemonade. The sun is warm on my face. What are you thinking about? Grandpa asks. I look at him. I look at my simple, quiet life. There is no drama here. There is no screaming. There is no theft. I'm thinking that I'm happy, I say, and I mean it. I lost my family, but I found myself. I am not the victim anymore. I am the woman who fought back. I am the woman who won. And that is worth more than any bank account.